Welcome to the official YouTube channel of Eternia.com. I'm your host AJ, and today we're doing an unboxing and a mini review of the Masterverse 2.0 Masters of the Universe 1987 live-action movie inspired Wave 11 Evil-Lyn figure. Now, this is the fourth time that Evil-Lyn has ever been realized in Masterverse plastic, and this is the third figure from the movie-inspired subline of Masterverse. And holy cow, everyone, holy cow, look who it is. We finally have Evil-Lyn. Look, if you are a fan of the 1987 Masters of the Universe live-action film like I am, and a fan of action figures, then you have been in the same boat. We've been waiting 36 years for this iconic performance by actress Meg Foster to be finally realized in plastic. And it's been a long journey, not quite a good journey, a long journey. Look, along the way, we have gotten some cool, movie-inspired figures. We recently got this Masterverse Frank Langella Skeletor. And then behind that, we also got a Classics Blade. And then to the right here, we have Classics Sarad, which I loved him as an evil warrior. He got killed way too prematurely in that film. That always upset me. And then finally here on the right, we have the William Stout Collection Commander Karg. Nice hair, Commander. But here it is. We finally have Evil-Lyn. Look, not to age myself, but as a kid, I was in the theater. I was in the theater in 1987, and I saw this movie. And at the time, look, I've grown to love it. Really love this movie. But at the time, I was so-so. Where's Prince Adam? Where's Cringer? Where's Orko? I had all these issues with the film, but there were some things I loved straight out of the gate. And one of them was Meg Foster as Evil-Lyn. I thought her performance was iconic. It was eerie. Her eyes were so eerie and so magical looking. And I just fell in love with her performance. And this was an Evil-Lyn that now, as an adult, I've just been waiting for her to be realized in plastic. And finally, here she is. So enough talking about the movie and everything else. Let's take a closer look at that packaging. So here it is, the Masterverse 2.0 packaging for the movie-inspired Evil-Lyn. And let's first talk about that phrase, movie-inspired, for a second, because I believe that originated from Mattel when they first announced this movie-inspired subline within Masterverse. And they showed us a He-Man and they showed us a Skeletor. And if you recall the packaging for this subline, it had this very generic logo, of Masters of the Universe. This wasn't the logo that we saw on the movie posters from the Canon Films production. No, this is just a generic logo. And that He-Man inside was very generic too when it came to the face. It didn't have the actor's likeness. It didn't have Dolph Lundgren's likeness. It was just a generic face. And it almost gave fans the feeling that Mattel actually didn't have the license to make official Masters of the Universe movie figures. And that's why they were saying it was inspired by. But now it feels like things have changed. Because if you look at the logo of this packaging, this is the logo we saw in the movie posters. This is the logo from the 1987 film, the one that was made by Canon. And if you look at the figure itself, this is not a generic head. This is an actor from the film. This carries the likeness of Meg Foster, the actress who played Evil-Lyn in the movie. So this no longer feels like an action figure that's inspired by a film, but this actually feels like an official licensed 1987 Masters of the Universe action figure. And I couldn't be more thrilled about it. But first, let's talk about this fantastic artwork. Once again, the artwork is done by the great Eamon O'Donoghue, who also did the He-Man and Skeletor in this subline. And here we have Evil-Lyn, and she's like directing the Skeletor troopers to battle. And we have a couple Skeletor troopers on those hover discs. And we have Beastman, which we hope to get a figure in this subline soon. We have a holographic projection of Skeletor. And then here we are, more Skeletor troopers on hover discs. And I love that floating chariot of Skeletor, the hover chariot that we saw in the film. So It's just great stuff. Now on the side, we have that terrific, profile artwork that Masterverse fans have come to expect and love. We have this beautiful headshot of Meg Foster as Evil-Lyn. And then we have Evil-Lyn, looks like she's casting a spell with, magic hands. So now on the back of the box, we get this cool toy photography. Now, of course, it's not real toy photography. We learned through San Diego Comic-Con that this is 3D generated art, but it still looks rather cool here. And I love Amon's artwork here. We have another shot of Evil-Lyn down here. And look at this. We have the iconic Castle Grayskull from the movie. So really good stuff. And finally, let's check out this bio. The bio says, Evil-Lyn, evil leader of the army of Skeletor. After obtaining the cosmic key from Gwildor, Evil-Lyn realized too late that he had a second. She led Skeletor's forces to Earth to capture the second key and prove her worth. All right, so that's it with the packaging. Let's get Evil-Lyn out of the box and take a closer look. So here is the Masterverse, Masters of the Universe movie Evil-Lyn out of the box and in 360 degrees. And so far, I'm loving what I'm seeing. And let's start with, what is this figure's purpose? What is the purpose of having a movie license figure? It's not about having lots and lots of crazy accessories, or it's not about having a spectacular articulated figure. It's really about having a figure that resembles the character you saw on screen. And the more screen accurate that action figure is to the actor or the actress that you saw depict that role, the better. So the question is this a good representation of Meg Foster in the role of Evil-Lyn in that 1987 Masters of the Universe film? And that's what we're here to find out. And at first glance, I think we're there. I really love the sculpting here, and I really think they've captured that 1987 movie Evil-Lyn. But I might have some complaints in regards to the paint, not necessarily the application, but the colors chosen. And are those colors accurate, an accurate representation of what we saw on screen? So before we get into that, let's first take a closer look at that head sculpt. So here she is, the head sculpt of actress Meg Foster as Evil-Lyn, and I think she looks fantastic. I really think Mattel did a great job here. Let's take one profile shot, and then let's look at her straight on, and then another profile. Yeah. She's not perfect, meaning you can get perfection these days. With today's actors, they can 3D scan your face and make an exact miniature, head of that actor or actress on top of an action figure, and it looks like the spitting image of that person. But back in 1987, they didn't have any of that 3D scanning. But this is a fantastic, representation of Meg Foster, the human, and I'm a big fan of hers, not just in Evil-Lyn, but in other movie roles and such. I even like it better than the William Stout He-Man figure. If you want to ask me, which looks more like their actor counterpart, does this look more like Dolph Lundgren, or does this look more like Meg Foster? And I'll say, yeah, this Evil-Lyn figure definitely looks more like Meg Foster. And I know the William Stout collection really wasn't designed to look like Dolph Lundgren, but a lot of people are happy with it as their Dolph Lundgren figure. But if they're happy with that figure, then they should be ecstatic with this one, because this, I think, is a great Meg Foster Evil-Lyn head. So let's take a look at her head to toe in regards to how screen accurate Evil-Lyn is. And we're not just talking about sculpting, but we're talking the paint. Not the paint application, but the color choices. I think you're going to find that the sculpting here is really spot on, and this figure really provides, sculpt-wise, a very good screen accurate Evil-Lyn figure. But where this figure falls short, I think, is the paint application. And let's just start with the obvious point here of her gold armor and headdress and so forth. This really doesn't look gold. This looks like a faded yellow to some degree. And this reminds me of the problem we had in regards to Hero. If you remember our Hero figure, a lot of people complained that the gold kind of looked like mustard. I'm not sure how it's showing in this light, but it kind of had this mustard color, and they really wish it had that gold paint. And we saw this great gold paint come later in the Masterverse line with Sunman. If you look at the shield and on his armor, boy, does this pop. It really looks gold in color, and everyone had wished that gold paint was actually used on the Hero figure. So now we look at Evil-Lyn, and this armor is supposed to be gold as well, and somehow it's looking less gold than Hero here. Like I said, it's just faded, dirty yellow. I guess it has maybe a goldish flavor to it, but it hardly looks like what we saw on screen. So I really wish the paint application in regards to this armor set was done a little better. So now let's take a closer look at Evil-Lyn's headdress, and I think they really did a good job sculpting this. It really looks like what we saw in the film. Again, the only problem is the paint application. This should have been gold in color, and there should have been like a half circle of red rubies. And if you're a pretty good painter and if you got a steady hand, you could actually remedy this by just putting, a little red paint and putting red dots along this half circle here, and it'll look rather good. But they definitely got the gemstone right. You have the two-tone colors, and that's exactly the way it was in the film. So looking at the torso area, well, actually the neck dress here looks pretty well sculpted, and that's painted accurately. It has that purple look. And of course, we needed all this to be a good color gold, and it's not. But I do love seeing all the snakes here, and that's accurate for Evil-Lyn's costume. You have this little cobra here, and the snakes on the shoulder, and the snakes on these bracers, and even down here hanging from her pelvis area. And maybe, it's like a precursor, in the 2000X series, how Evil-Lyn betrayed Skeletor for the Snake Men. This is a little warning sign, Skeletor, that watch out, she has a thing for snakes. But looking at this whole body again, there's a problem here with the bodysuit. First, I love the design work. That looks terrific. But the bodysuit here is painted pink. But the actual costume, it should be all more tan color or more apricot color, if I got the color right, but more of that orange kind of bodysuit feel. It shouldn't be pink. The reason why it looked pink in the actual film is because there was a lot of red lighting in that Castle Grayskull set. It was the same problem we had with the Masterverse Skeletor, where his armor set looked way too pink. And that was due to the lighting in the film, but not the actual costume. So the same problem we have now with Evil-Lyn's bodysuit. So it's very well sculpted here, very well. I love the patterns in it, but once again, like the gold, the paint application is just way off on this. So the boots here, I think, look really screen accurate. They might have been cut a little deeper, but it definitely had this like silver rivets, and it had the purple inside the silver, and then the black bottoms here. So these look really nice. And then the skirt here that she wears, it's pretty close to the colors. And the black. Well, then, I also like that we have the pattern on the hands here, because Evil-Lyn wore gloves with patterns on it. So let's talk articulation here. First, I think some of her outfit is going to be restrictive. She has a soft plastic cape that's going to affect her leg movement. This is soft goods here, so this is going to be no problem. But her actual cape shoulders is going to restrict movement. But before I get to that, she doesn't have the drop-down hips that were introduced in the previous wave. And just like Prince Adam, look at that. She doesn't have the double-jointed elbows. It's a single joint. And that's how far it bends up. So you're not really going to get great articulation that you're used to with Masterverse figures with this figure. And I don't understand why, because the other female figures in previous waves did have double jointed elbows, and the two other figures in this movie subline, He-Man and Skeletor, have double jointed elbows, but for some reason Evil-Lyn does not. So it's really frustrating why. And you're not going to be able to lift her arms too high with this shoulder cape piece, but I wonder, does this come off? I think this is going to come off. Let's pop off her head. Yeah, look at that. Oh, look at this. This is more like a evening wear, you know, when she's going out on a date with Skeletor. And if you recall, if you watched the film Masters of the Universe, 1987 feature film, you'll notice this one scene where Skeletor and Lyn have this real tender moment where Skeletor is caressing her face and looking in her eyes and talking softly. So if you just, think back that Masters of the Universe Revelation was the only scene where Skeletor and Evil-Lyn got intimate, that's not true. It also happened in the Masters of the Universe live action film. Look at that. Her head doesn't look right. Is that not completely on? It looks too high, right? No, that's as far as it goes. So she's definitely going to look better with her cape on, but it is removable for this, kind of romantic evening wear, night on the town. So in regards to accessories, Evil-Lyn comes with these 2 spellcasting hands, which I think I'm going to leave permanently in her wrists. And then the only other accessory she comes with is this translucent cosmic key. And it's the same sculpt of the cosmic key that came with the Masterverse movie-inspired Skeletor figure, except now it's translucent plastic. And I assume this is supposed to be some sort of energized cosmic key. There was a hologram cosmic key that Evil-Lyn, sort of held out on her hand. She was showing Kevin as she was looking for the key, but that was actually supposed to be smaller. That was smaller in her hand. So if we held out her palm and put this in her hand, this is just way too big. So I'm thinking it's not the hologram, and this is just an activated cosmic key. But I'm not 100% sure. But it is kind of cool, I guess. What's interesting is during the pre-order pages, they couldn't decide which cosmic key you were getting. Sometimes it showed a translucent, energized cosmic key, and then sometimes it showed a normal painted cosmic key. And it was really confusing because on some of the pre-order pages from picture to picture, you really didn't know what you were getting. So what do I think of the Masterverse Wave 11? I'm not going to say movie inspired. Official licensed Evil-Lyn figure from the 1987 Masters of the Universe film. I am thrilled. I am thrilled to have her. Look, this is the entire Masters of the Universe collection between the Classics line and the Masterverse line. And fans of this film have been able to build this piece by piece as the years progress. But it's taken a long time, too long, to finally get an official Evil-Lyn figure from the movie. And now she's finally here. And what a terrific job Mattel did in regards to sculpting. I think the face sculpt is wonderful. I think it represents Meg Foster really well. And I love the sculpting of the body and the armor, and it's really spot on. But that's not to say this Evil-Lyn is perfect. I mean, I do have some issues with her. She did lose some points of articulation, and I don't know why. And then the coloring on her is off, and I don't know why. Unfortunately, there's a lot of color choices used here that is not film accurate. And they couldn't even get a good gold color on her, and I'm not sure what's going on over at Mattel. But is that a deal breaker for me? No. I am still absolutely thrilled to have this movie Evil-Lyn finally added to my collection. I was excited back when she was announced, and I'm even more excited looking at her now. So if you're a fan of the Masters of the Universe movie, I highly recommend to get this figure. And then if you're like one of the customizers that can really do a good job painting, boy, you can paint this figure, and I'm certain you can make her look exactly the way she did in the film, and she's going to look so fantastic. All right, well, that's it. I want to thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.